Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Dave Ellett, Chief Commercial Officer for Australian Payments Plus. And today we've got an AP Plus webinar on unlocking business opportunities with real-time payments. But to start with, I want to do the welcome to country. I acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather today. Here in Sydney, that is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to the elders past and present. I'd like to introduce my esteemed panel here of guests. First of all, Katrina on my right, who's executive sponsor for the move to NPP. And Lauren Wells, who is the head of product for domestic payments at NAB. Welcome, Lauren. And Beck Simmons, who is head of partnerships payments at APAC. Amazon. So welcome everyone to the webinar today. Just a bit of structure for the meeting. We're going to do a little bit of a presentation from Katrina on AP Plus, a bit about what we've been doing and what's been happening around the move to NPP. And then we're going to open up actually for a Q&A, some questions, particularly learning from NAB and Amazon's experience as they've moved into real-time payments. And if we get time, maybe we'll have a bit of Q&A, but if not, what I'd ask you to do is if you could just put any questions you've got in the chat, we will be capturing those questions. And even if we don't get to them today, we'll aim to get back to you as soon as we can. But maybe I'll just start with you, Katrina, hand over to you. I think you're going to give us an update.
Thanks, Dave. So we wanted to touch a little bit on what we're seeing from a business user perspective, and we're seeing more and more businesses in Australia are embracing real-time payments across a range of different use cases. And what we're starting to see is those businesses are realising some of the benefits that real-time payments basically present. And that starts with unlocking efficiencies for businesses. So the fact that there's always on availability, which means from a business perspective, there's no cut-off times. Payments can be made at any time of day, whether that's a weekday, in a weekend, or even a public holiday as well, which is also particularly important for critical payments that need to be made in those timeframes. Payment certainty is another benefit that we're seeing for businesses as well, in terms of knowing what the outcome of a payment is immediately and at any point in that payment process as well. And combined with real-time information, where that enables business owners to identify payment errors early on in the process, and having that additional information in the payment message, which helps from a reconciliation perspective as well. And the ability to match that information together with the payment really helps to streamline and automate that reconciliation process, reducing the need for manual processing and intervention as well. And the other kind of benefit that we're seeing as a result of having that information together with the payment message is it's really helping to build trust by understanding the purpose of that payment as well and why that payment is being made. But beyond those business efficiencies, we're also seeing a number of other benefits for businesses as well. So we're seeing that there is greater protection and security. So the NPP provides assurance that money's going to where it's intended to go, both with Pay ID, but also from the perspective of confirmation of payee as well, that's starting to roll out at the moment. And we know from research that we've seen that actually 1 in 4 Pay ID users have actually stopped a payment or edited it before making it, because they can actually see where that payment is going to, which really demonstrates the power of having the assurance that money's going to where it's supposed to be going to. And as we think about how we extend those capabilities, there's a lot of interest from a business perspective in terms of how those capabilities can be extended for different scenarios as well, to really help safeguard businesses from mistaken payments, fraud and scams, which is increasingly important in the environment that we live in. But also from a data protection perspective as well. So businesses are seeing that actually if they start to utilise services like Pay ID and Pay2, there isn't the need to store sensitive information such as BSB and account numbers and account names in their own environment, which again is a real benefit in today's environment where increasingly we're seeing more data breaches occur. And so really helping to manage that data security risk. We're seeing customers really benefit from a customer experience perspective by leveraging the real-time payments capabilities, able to really streamline business workflows and make a difference from a customer perspective in terms of what that experience is. And that might be at the beginning of the process when the customer's making the payment, or it could even be sort of at the back end when they're dealing with customer service issues as well, and how real-time payments and the information that flows with it helps to support a better customer experience. And finally, from a cash flow perspective, we're seeing that, with the real-time movement of funds, businesses can reduce the cost of capital for their businesses and optimise that cash flow, and particularly to avoid the need to pre-fund payroll or other accounts payable runs as well, and really manage that cash flow and have greater visibility to it as well. And that's a benefit we're seeing not just for businesses operating in Australia, but increasingly as they think about what that can mean globally as well, if they're involved in that kind of business. And so we're really starting to see some of these, real-time benefits actually come to life. And that's why increasingly we're seeing a number of businesses across a range of different sectors and use cases are adopting real-time payments. So we've seen that in the utility space, whereby they've seen benefits in terms of payment queries being addressed during the customer call and helping to reduce from the time of those calls from a customer service perspective. Superannuation, where organisations are supporting employers in meeting and thinking about payday super and getting ready to move that across to the NPP. From an education perspective, we're seeing organisations use the NPP to really benefit from some of the automated reconciliation aspects of the NPP and real-time payments. In terms of financial services, or more kind of in the security space, we're seeing organisations start to use the NPP for instant funding of investment trades as well. Government starting to adopt the NPP for disaster relief payments that can be delivered immediately, and whether that's a weekend or a public holiday, once they've confirmed the citizens' entitlement to that payment. And that's making a real difference to citizens' lives as well. And then also from a retail perspective, seeing new payment options at checkout. And that's a kind of use case that we wanted to dive into
that today.
Today, exactly, with Amazon and NAB, and really excited to hear about what the actual experience has been and some of the benefits that you're really starting to see by adopting the NPP and its real-time payment capabilities. So back to you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks very much, Katrina. I think, clearly this is from an AP Plus perspective, the role we play in the industry, but it's always great to hear from, people at the end of it, really what's happening in industry. So, Lauren, maybe if I start with you. In your role at NAB, you work with many businesses across many industries. What are you hearing from businesses and the opportunities they see in modernising their payments?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I think, Katrina, you touched on a lot of particular use cases, and when we think about benefits and opportunities, we sort of bucket them into a few key themes. There's customer experience, there's commercial and competitive opportunities, and there's things like back office efficiencies, as well as even your compliance, so complying with obligations like the payday super. Yeah. So there's a lot that's coming back to us from businesses, and when I think about the Amazon scenario, they were really one of the first to really embed a account-to-account experience in an e-commerce, which has traditionally been the setting of card schemes, debit and credit cards, but account-to-account really lended itself to that because with NPP, it's highly digital. It still gives customers that control that they often want when they're looking at managing their cash flows. And we think about the use of debit, that's obviously debiting an account. Well, this was taking it one step further, allowing customers to directly debit their account. And with that came commercial opportunities for Amazon to consider, because there is advantages. So for example, account to account has a different commercial model, so there's potentially cost efficiencies in that as well. But then thinking about a customer like Amazon, they really wanted to elevate their customer experience. And so one of the key examples that we typically talk about is this concept of real-time refunds, which I've personally tried, and it's great. Gone are the days of sending out the email or, God forbid, the letter where we say your refund will be with you in 5 to 10 business days. Yeah. Now it actually can be there instantaneously, and that really elevates the customer experience. So in the Amazon scenario, if you mistakenly purchase something, God forbid again, you can actually then cancel that, and then within seconds, the orchestration of that refund is effectively automated, and then the funds are returned back into your account within seconds, and it's a really, really great experience. Some of the other examples beyond Amazon that we're seeing is obviously insurance and super sectors where disbursements, payouts, in insurance, when you want to get funds back to a customer quickly, particularly in a distressing scenario, real-time payments allows you to actually do that, which is a fantastic opportunity for customers.
Great. So Beck, Amazon was obviously an early adopter of Pay2 in Australia, not adopter of many things in many countries, I should say, but what prompted Amazon to explore this and make it a priority?
Yeah, with the launch of Pay2 in January, we were just genuinely excited to offer something new and different to our customers in the payment space. For us, we work backwards from customer and we consider ourselves a customer-obsessed company. And so with that lens, the team, prior to launching here in Australia, the team was seeing globally trends of strong customer adoption of, pay by account instant payment methods. We really know our customers here in Australia. We wanted to make that choice available to them, and they've really embraced Pay2 since we've launched. In terms of early adopter, you're right, like Amazon, we really take a long-term perspective and we like to invest early in technologies that have future promise. Yeah. So for us, Pay2, it's not just a new payment method, but it's us embracing innovation in Australia for Australian customers and also, playing a small part alongside domestic schemes and banks here in Australia in payment modernisation.
Yeah, so just building on from that, what's been some of the early results that you've seen so far? I mean, obviously, you've got aspirations about the success of Pay2.
Yes, yeah. There's two biggest efficiencies that we've seen. Firstly is in customer experience. Yep. And then secondarily, Lauren touched on the commercials, there is a cost reduction. And for us, that means we can pass that benefit on to our customers in terms of improved product pricing on Amazon. In terms of customer experience, we've tested a lot of different messages with our customers. What we've found really resonates best is secure and card-free. Yeah. And those messages, test with our customer base more strongly than other messages, like speed and control. And, for us, I think that really highlights the cohort of Australians that have a really high appeal towards Pay2. There are some Australians who prefer not to store or save their card details online. And so for them, Pay2 provides an alternative that we haven't had before. And, we see this in our customer behaviour. It really is a hurdle where customers who may check out and buy a product on Amazon, after they complete their purchase, they go back into their profile or into their wallet and they actually remove their card details that they use to just check out and buy their product. And so for those customers, Pay2 is really their preferred product. And I think in that way, Pay2 might also bring new customers online that previously might not have been comfortable shopping online. So that security message is really, front and foremost in our customers' mind and to their benefit. We see that in other data points. Like I think, Katrina, you touched on Pay ID, meaning you don't even need to use your BSB account details. So for Pay2 registration, we've seen over 60% of customers register with Pay ID, which again, it really emphasises and underscores that security message as well as making that registration easier. Most people have their mobile number handy as opposed to their BSB account number. So then once Pay2 is set up, we, as Lauren said, we've really set a high bar for the customer experience. That checkout is one click, it is fast, it is seamless and it's secure. Our customers are really loving it. And so we're seeing really positive signs in terms of continued customer use through Pay2 and also those experiences that are differentiators. So Lauren's not the only customer that loves the refund experience. No longer do you have to, go back.
We're all like that.
Yeah, make a diary note to check you got your refund. It's there instantaneously. So yeah, we really love what we've got with Pay2 and there's lots of benefits for our customers.
Certainly as an avid Amazon shopper, I was so excited to be able to use Pay2 in your environment. It was such an easy experience to set up that Pay2 agreement, but then to have that visibility and control in my banking app to kind of know that that's there and know that I have control over it as well, provides me with that assurance and not having to put my card on file and, having issues there in terms of that card getting compromised, etc. So, it was just so exciting to be able to use that, and it was just so seamless.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm guessing you've used it many times, Bex.
Many times.
So you've obviously used it, Katrina.
Yes, I've used
Lauren,
it,
you've used
yes.
it, and I've used it. I'm up about 15, 20 times myself. Just saying,
Thanks for all doing your part.
We're doing our part for the industry. Just interested a bit, Beck, in terms of maybe versus early days. I get that, but how's it progressing so far? Are people switching to use Pay2? You talked about it's a bit of an uplift there, but is it versus your initial expectations meeting it?
Yeah, I think, look, Amazon has high expectations, and so we're always very ambitious in the goals that we set because we know there's a lot of value there for customers. I think we've had a number of learnings and we're still adapting our approach as we go through. It is still early days. I think the first key learning for us is right at the start of the customer journey, where it all starts with awareness. And I think, in early days, we started with a friends and family trial of Pay2, and we identified that there was some gaps around consumer education and awareness as it relates to Pay2. And so we really invested in upweighting our how-to guides online to support our customers, really making sure that our materials focus on the differences compared to, say, traditional payment methods. And then we also invested time making sure that there's resources available to showcase the registration experience by bank, because we know that customers may have a differing experience depending on who they bank with as they set up their Pay2 agreement. Yeah. And so we've really invested in awareness and education, but we do think there's some ways to go to continue to drive adoption. And I would really, encourage and welcome collaboration across the industry on marketing and initiatives that drive education and awareness to continue to support customer adoption. And I think secondarily, I kind of touched on that banking experience. A big part of our learning is on driving standardization around some key customer experiences. And we think that, standardization, for example, on Pay2 agreement registration, there could be lots of benefits there for our customers. Today there are inconsistencies, and it is still early days, around how that registration process have been implemented. And I think the customer impact of that, when you think about it from an end user perspective, is it makes it harder to set customer expectations about, what they're going to experience. And then if they need help or support during that process, it does make it more difficult to help them navigate through the registration experience because of that variability. So, I think that's also to be expected in early days. I think as consumers, we all know when you try a new experience, you get confused, you get stuck. Our customers are the same, and we do see them tend to give up if they're confused or there's too many steps in the process. And then they just revert back to what's worked for them in the past. And so, we see that in the data around registration success rates, which really, it does vary across banks, and that's as an outcome of that experience variability. And as a customer-obsessed company, sometimes that is difficult. When we see a registration that wasn't successful for us, that indicates our customer wasn't able to get through the checkout process in the way that they preferred to. And so, that's really where we've been focusing our time to support customers. Again, providing more customer assistance. Along with the team, I've been engaging directly with the banks to really understand their specific implementations to make sure that we've got the right support. Yeah. And then we've also been trialling and testing incentives, which I know we've spoken to AP Plus and NAB about our experiences there. We've offered, most recently for Prime Day, we had a 5% off offer for customers who used Pay2. So I do hope you used your Pay2 in Prime Day and you got a bargain. I think I'm a bit of a cliche. I bought a vacuum, but
there you go.
But it's great. It's a great opportunity for everyone, and I really encourage anyone listening who hasn't, tried the experience to go onto Amazon, have a go, experience Pay2 in a live use case, because it's a great experience, and there's still many more opportunities for customers as we continue to improve that together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's encouraging from what we're seeing and hearing is that once customers have sort of set up a pay to agreement once, they kind of then understand how it works and then very keen to kind of come back and use it again and for different use cases. And obviously, the more that we have different organisations starting to offer pay to as a payment option, that'll help to kind of reinforce that customer awareness as well. And I think we'll start to kind of see flow on effects happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the incentives, does support in that one-off registration experience where there is a bit more friction, but after it's set up, it's absolutely seamless and a beautiful experience thanks to the way that we've implemented it with NAB.
I'm interested in some learnings from you, but I'm going to just step back for a second because I think bringing a large merchant on is important for the industry, and ironing out some of those kind of teething issues as we kind of talked about. And I agree, like when you get past that kind of initial setup, it's actually really easy and really seamless. But Lauren, obviously, NAB played a key role with Amazon, so just talk through some of the process you went through to get Amazon live and what was kind of involved.
Yeah, so our role was to try and bring to life that vision. We've obviously heard Beck talk about their high customer standards and trying to think about what it is we're trying to achieve. And Amazon were really clear with what their goals and objectives were, which is probably one of the lessons that other businesses can take is what is it that they want to achieve? What is their problem statement? What are the opportunities that they're seeing? And we really partnered to try and bring that vision to life. We had an element of the capability already existing, so that real-time refunds that we were talking about, the digital infrastructure, so specifically the API integrations, was already existing. And with our Pay2 solution, we do actually have a standard customer experience in that front layer. But Amazon wanted to embed it into their checkout. They wanted to have very consistent across all of their payments. So they actually took that and they designed their own and built their own. And so it was about us working together to actually connect those experiences to give end users that wonderful checkout experience you have today. So again, it was about partnering between the business and your payment provider to come up with what it is that you needed to do, with an element of trying to ensure some standardization to create consistent experience, but also speed to market, which is really critical for Amazon as well.
Yeah, and so Beck, thanks. So you talked about some kind of learnings from an Amazon perspective. Lauren and maybe Katrina as well, if you've got any, I'm interested in learnings from your perspective, maybe with Amazon and kind of more broadly.
Yeah, so that standardisation is certainly one of the learnings. We have our experience for customers to accept the mandates that are presented to them within the NAB digital ecosystem, so their internet banking and their mobile banking app. And so we also saw that there were inconsistencies in experiences, which meant that customers didn't quite know where they needed to go to accept the mandates. And so we're adopting those learnings. We're again evolving our solution as well to ensure that we can, across the entire payments ecosystem, give those end users the experience that they need and expect. But that's also one of the highlights more broadly, is that NPP and the payments that are processed through NPP, this is still relatively new, and Amazon was an early adopter. We've recently just launched our Pay-ID receivables product, which is a bill payment alternative. So the point being is that we as an industry and participants in the industry continue to evolve and continue to provide new capabilities. And so as a business, just because it may not be there doesn't mean it won't be there. So it's certainly about talking to your payment provider and understanding what your use cases are and understanding what your needs are, because there might be something in the works that then will be fit for your purpose.
Yeah. And I think to that point, Lauren, also the role that the payment provider can play to help a business to think through what might be the right sequencing of kind of activity as well. So it might be sort of starting with certain pilots or proof of concept. It might be starting with certain payment types first to kind of get those learnings, embed those processes, then think about how you scale up and how you expand into other payment types as well. And we're seeing that happen a lot from those organisations that have come on board to the NPP. So kind of starting small, kind of getting some of those learnings, but then that puts them in a really good position to be able to scale up and really continue to adopt the NPP's capabilities. And I think those conversations with their payment provider will help them kind of work through what's going to be the best approach for each business, because obviously everyone's different in terms of their back office environment, how how they're set up, other kind of intermediaries maybe that they, rely on as well, and what that journey looks like to them.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And they're the kinds of conversations we are already having with our customers, because, for example, Pay2 has direct debit replacement applications, and so often what you'll sort of see is those businesses have a back book of existing direct debits that are routing through the old batch-based process. And so for us, it might be a case of, well, your front book, you can enable Pay2 as an alternative, new direct debits sign up, and then we'll look at, your back book later on. So it can be a phased approach. And to your point, it's, start small and then you can go a little bit bigger.
I mean, what I hear from that is, work with your payment provider. It might be slightly different by industry, the use case you're solving for, and it's probably a bit unique by merchant potentially as well, with some of the larger ones, so to work through those nuances. So it's kind of really is a coordinated approach to driving that adoption. But I'm interested in everyone's perspectives on kind of what's the next steps for the industry as we kind of move to this real-time world. But maybe Katrina, I'll start with you. I'd be interested to get your views on that.
Sure. So there's a number of things that sort of AP Plus are doing. So one of the key ones is to really start to articulate what impact the NPP has had and how we bring to life some of these benefits and these outcomes as well. And I'm really excited to say that we've been working on a white paper that we're looking to publish in the next week or so that will start to showcase some of these case studies and really starting to share what different organisations have seen by coming on board to the NPP. That I think just brings to life across different use cases and different sectors the power of real-time payments and what that can deliver from a business perspective. But more broadly, we're also focused on as a kind of platform, what do we need to do to support this drive towards payments modernisation and digitisation as well. So thinking about the platform and what that kind of future roadmap looks like, capacity uplifts, etc., how we work with the participating, organisations as well to support them as they work with their customers to go through this journey of transition as well. And we're very focused on what sort of market education activities can we do, but also engaging the different end users and stakeholders as well to understand what are their needs and their requirements. So it's really important for us to understand from a platform perspective in terms of what we need to be thinking about. And how we can support that broader change management effort. So as we've kind of talked about before, we have our move to NPP program of work that's focused on the platform and its readiness, but also more broadly from an industry perspective as well, how we can support that journey.
Yeah, and Lauren, maybe I'll ask you the same question. What's the next steps you see from a real-time payments perspective?
Yeah, so we obviously, being a major bank, have a large back book of customers who are sitting using the BEX payment system. So we're obviously heavily involved in the industry in working through and designing what that new solution could look like. But more internally, we're also engaging our customers in end user engagement to understand what are their needs, what are we actually solving for, because if there's a problem statement to solve, that allows us to help develop something that's actually going to enhance the capability for not just for our customers, but for the broader ecosystem as well. And so for us, it all starts with the customer. And from then we can then design and we can input into the industry to actually elevate it. We certainly have a very, very comprehensive roadmap. As I said, we've just launched PayID receivables, which was something for a very long time we wanted to provide our customers, because for all the reasons that Beck was mentioning about using PayIDs to help validate who you're actually paying. That's a really fantastic one when we think about some of the frauds and scam scenarios. So we think about invoicing scams, we think about mistaken payments, which creates backlogs in your back office where you have to work through and repair those. And that's across the entire value chain, not just with businesses, right through to your payment provider as well. So we have a lot of things in there that we know we do want to deliver, and that's from learnings from engagement with customers.
Yeah, Beck, I just have a question for you. So I think we obviously Amazon made the decision to do this, and you talked about a bit about the why. What would be your advice to maybe other businesses that might be thinking, well, should I do this now or maybe 6-12 months down the line?
Look, we think there's firstly like a real advantage for our customers of going early. As I said, these customers are really embracing it, and it meets a customer need in e-commerce in terms of that security perspective. So where we always start is, as I said, we work backwards from the customer. And so it's one of the things that Amazon's famous for is really creating a customer vision right when at the start of the initiative. They draft up a a press release of the future product alongside frequently asked questions. And so that becomes the guiding light for us, because I would say there were many challenges in that you need to overcome when implementing a new, innovative payment solution. So really having that customer vision enables us to kind of push through together any of those hurdles and to make sure that what we do deliver lives up to customer expectations. And I would say in that, NAB's been a really fantastic partner. They've worked with us really collaboratively and extensively, and really welcomed the high bar that we've set. And it's really been a partnership that's grown with Pay2 as the starting point for both of us. So for us, I think we are really, really positively encouraged by going early and playing an active role in shaping up the industry and the direction of Pay2 into the future.
Yeah, Katrina, maybe I'll just ask you, you talked about the kind of 6 industry use cases that we got earlier. Which ones do you say in the next couple were the kind of AP Plus is focused on and working with the industry on?
I mean, there's obviously a couple from a sort of broader sort of market perspective are probably top of our list. So certainly with the government looking to introduce legislation around payday super, that's a particular area of focus in terms of how do we work with the industry to ensure that people have the information that they need around how the NPP can be used for those superannuation payments, and particularly looking at things like sort of the refunds as well and the returns, because I think that's really where the benefits from the NPP will come into play in terms of meeting those time requirements that are being proposed. I think we're also, really looking at how do we support the direct debit migration, in terms of thinking about that, what that looks like, and helping people understand what that kind of process looks like and how we've thought about that from a Pay2 perspective. And then, certainly with our recent public consultation that we did, that we spoke about last time we did a webinar, is to also really understand what are the needs and requirements across the industry to support some of these different use cases as well that we need to start preparing for now and thinking about. So particularly as we think probably about additional data in the payment message, what do we need to do from a customer experience perspective? What do we need to do from a kind of consistency and standardisation perspective to support industry as well, that are probably kind of, a broader than a particular use case, but are applicable kind of across the market as well, and thinking about that as we think about kind of what's next and what that future roadmap looks like.
Great, thanks. And last question probably for you, Lauren. I'll ask you a similar question, but you talked about your customers earlier and looking through those, and I don't want you to give customers away, but maybe industry segments in terms of kind of where's kind of a focus for yourselves?
Oh, where do I start with that question? We have lots of interest from various segments. And so this talks to, when we think about standardisation and the application of the capabilities that we have across various segments. And so I wouldn't necessarily say we're calling out any particular segment where we're more looking at the complementary capability across segments. And so it's the message, to any businesses is speak to your payment provider, because actually there's probably some capability and solutions that is suitable for your needs, regardless of segment.
I'm guessing the inbound's been higher since Amazon went live as well. I certainly know that.
Smidgen.
We've heard a bit more from an AP Plus perspective. You get a big brand like that. Has that been the same for yourselves?
Yes, we definitely have. I think from a Pay2 perspective, Amazon coming on board was a bit of a watershed moment, and that really, not only is Amazon a big brand name, it's also got larger volumes and the potential for even larger volumes. And so that really certainly drove the mention of Pay2, people now starting to really recognise what it is, and that talks to the efforts of Amazon around that customer education piece. The work that they have done is fantastic, because it is a responsibility of all participants and users in the ecosystem to obviously help create that awareness.
Yeah, and we see opportunity to expand our Pay2 use as well. So for anyone that's a Prime member, Pay2 is not currently available as a payment method, so that'll be coming in time, as well as our subscribe and save everyday essential propositions. Soon we'll bring Pay2 as a payment option there. And also we've launched Amazon Business, which is a business-only store version of Amazon. So, in future when we have business applicability for Pay2, that's another opportunity for us. So we do see a really strong growth trajectory for Pay2. But up until today, we've absolutely loved our experience with Pay2, and we're really grateful to both NAB and Australian Payments Plus for coming with us and enabling us to be an early adopter for our customers.
And I think certainly one of the things that we've seen as we kind of looked across the market to see where the adoption of the NPP has been, it's been really encouraging to see it's been across a whole range of different use cases and different sectors. And I think the overriding message there is that, the NPP is ready and payment providers are ready to support customers think about how they start to get on board and adopt those capabilities, because a lot of that is in place and that journey can start today. And that's what we're really excited to see come to life.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. So I think, part of the panel was a bit about get going. You won't know some of the problems till you get there, but you figure those out as you kind of go through. But it sounds like some of the upside's been great as well. So thank you, Amazon, for being the market leader on that. And I think some of the experiences, what it's opened and what you've learned as a payment provider, it sounds like it's been kind of invaluable as well. So hopefully the audience today takes a lot away from all of that. So I'd like to thank you, Beck, for coming. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Katrina. And so thank you all for listening online as well.